What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. Welcome, in fact, to PCP Movie Night. Even more specifically, welcome to our kickoff of March Madness 2025. That's right. All month long, we'll be celebrating the insanity of cinema here on Pop Culture Philosophers, over at Blood Splatter Chatter, over at Dylan's Horror Show, and introducing for the first time into the lineup this year, One Collection Down. We got a great lineup of movies, 17 movies across 4 channels all month long. Tonight, we're kicking it off here with some giallo. That's right. You know, I love my Italian films. You know, I love my Lucio Fulci. You know, I love my murder mysteries. You know, I love my giallo. So tonight, we're talking about A Lizard in a Woman's Skin from 1971, Lucio Fulci. The movie did, I think, right a little bit before Don't Torture a Duckling, which we covered on a previous March Madness. But I'm super excited. We got a great panel lined up to join us tonight, including series regular Brooks. What is up, my man? First time watch for you, I'm certain.
Yep, never heard of this movie, oddly enough. Could possibly be, because it's about impossible to find these days.
It is impossible to find. In fact, Jelani was not able to be here with us because he couldn't find it to watch.
This is the first movie since True Lies where I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch this fucking movie.
Exactly. That's a Jeopardy question. This movie has a lot in common with True Lies.
It's almost like the parallels are just like crazy.
Yeah. Speaking of parallels and True Lies, it's Verno from Blood Splatter Chatter. What is up, my man?
Yeah. What up, gentlemen? Happy to be here. This is probably the best name out of the subgenre with the best titles. This is up towards the top of the list. This is one of the best titles in cinema history.
Yeah, exactly, man. Like modern American comics like to do these long titles. Manga has some weird ass English translated titles, but nobody compares to giallo, man. You know what I'm saying? These are some of the best titles out there. Speaking of the best titles out there, last minute, this man is a hero. Jumped in, saved the day. So it wasn't just the three of us, like Don't Torture a Duckling a couple years ago, but Joe Corallo is here, everybody.
It's true. I am. But yeah, no, I'm glad I could make it to this. I found it, I don't know. I mean, it's some of you, I don't think I'm the greatest internet whiz that ever was. I didn't have a problem, just saying.
All right. Well, I was able to watch it because I got it on Blu-ray from Two Gun Pedro. Brooks, will you show off the Blu-ray? Because I had to hand it off to Brooks because Brooks is not an internet guy. So there you go. There's my Blu-ray copy brought to you. This movie review is from Two Gun Pedro. We see you out there, buddy. Nice to see you, Two Gun. Thank you so much for this movie review. So yeah, let's get into it. 1971, it's a giallo. Fulci is known mostly, I guess, for Italian horror. Movies like Zombie, right? The City of the Living Dead, the Gates of Hell trilogy, right? In fact, Verno's doing one of them this upcoming Thursday, House by the Cemetery. But he has also, of course, done giallo, right? Even up through the time where he was doing the horror stuff and the really grotesque stuff. New York Ripper basically is a giallo. You know what I'm saying? And that's a great movie that we covered over at DHS. And we'll eventually bring it to PCP one day because that toe fucking scene's pretty dope, man. So anyway, I really like Fulci's work. But what's crazy is before he even started doing giallo, he was doing like musicals and comedies. Like this dude was a very versatile director. He had a lot of different things he could do. He was like the Takashi Miike of Italian cinema of his day, where he got pegged as a horror director, and it's for a good reason because he did some really great horror films, but he was capable of so much more, and he did so much more. But in 1970, I think, was the massive success of Dario Argento's The Bird with the Crystal Plumage, right? And from that, you get a lot of people jumping on that train, jumping on the bandwagon, right? And this movie is a product of that, right? So much so that these producers and these filmmakers were trying to replicate the success of Argento by doing pretty much the same movie, right? Which a lot of gialli are the same kind of plot in the same movie. This one, I think, is a little bit different, but they always felt like they had to put an animal in the title, the cat of nine tails, Four Flies on Gray Velvet. Those are Argento films. But then you got tons of these things, like The Case of the Bloody Scorpion or something like that. I think I've mixed that up with
Bloody
Case
Iris.
of the Bloody Iris. Yeah, but there's like one with the scorpion. There's of course, Lizard in a Woman's Skin. Don't torture a duckling. Like they were like, that's the secret. Put an animal in the title, you know. And just in case you didn't watch this movie out there, it is not about lizard people. It's not about the reptilians or anything like that, right? But I love this movie. I remember I watched this one time before, and that was back in the day of Netflix DVD through the mail, right? And that's when I was like diving in to Italian horror cinema. That's when I was getting into Argento and Fulci and the Bavas, right? That's when I was getting into that stuff because my video store didn't have them, but like my Hollywood Video, my Blockbuster, they didn't have these fucking movies, but Netflix did, right? And I was able to like dive in, just enjoy these movies. And it was on my Amazon wish list. Two Gun Pedro, I believe, saw it there. He got a copy, sent it to me, and he even told me, he was like, bro, this movie's going to get hard to find. It's impossible to find. It's nowhere streaming, nowhere to rent streaming-wise. You can't find this movie. It's kind of like a True Lies, like you were talking about, Brooks, or a Near Dark when we did Near Dark, and it was impossible to find anywhere, right? This is the importance of physical media, right? Just saying, right? So, but this was the first time I've watched it since like the early 2000s. And a lot of this I didn't remember, right? It was kind of like a fresh movie to me. I did remember who the killer was, and we will probably spoil that throughout the night. We have to in order to really talk about it. But I like the movie. It's got a score by Ennio Morricone, and we're going to be talking about that later on. We're going to be talking about the style, because one thing about giallo or gialli are that they are very stylish, right? They may be very formulaic at times with just the setup and the premise, and the characters may not be super fleshed out, but they are definitely stylish, meaning they look pretty and the camera moves well. They're well directed. This is an incredibly well directed film by Lucio Fulci. The way the camera moves, the way it glides, the framing, the setups of shots, everything there really, really works. It does come across, I think, a little draggy at times. It kind of slows itself up a little bit here and there. It doesn't quite nail the ending, in my opinion, because it goes the psycho route where it's like, let's just spend 15 minutes of somebody telling us what happened, right? So it does kind of do that. And yeah, twice. And there's other Fulci films I like more, like, for instance, The Beyond or Zombie or City of the Living Dead. I love those films, but I also like this one too, and I really appreciate it for what it is, which is a really great entry into the genre of giallo by a master Italian filmmaker, Lucio Fulci. So I'm very, very excited to talk about it, and I'm even more excited to hear what Brooks, first-time watcher, had to think about the movie. Man, what'd you think?
Yeah, I like this movie. Like, it is, like, it's kind of artsy in a way. Like, you know, he uses it. It's kind of like Blue Velvet. It reminded me a little bit of Blue Velvet, and like it has a very dreamlike kind of quality to it at times. But yeah, and like from looking at the box, I thought it was going to be like way more like it's going to be way spicier. That there's going to be more titties, which there's a good bit of titties in this movie. Like, you know, there's no shortage.
Oh, yeah.
But like the back of the box, he's like, oh, this is like a psychosexual thriller. Like, so I'm like, oh, there's going to be titties all over the place. But like, there's some good titties, but like it ain't thing.
Are you filling in for Jelani right now? Is that what you're doing?
I feel like he's fucking like channeling. He's like astral projecting into me right now.
You know,
but yeah, I love
avian flu maybe created a shortage of titties briefly. But
the great titty shortage.
Yeah. Blame Trump, right? All right.
Yeah.
What about you, Verno? This is a first-time watch for you, I believe. You thought that maybe you had seen this one before.
Yeah, exactly. I threw it on and I thought I had definitely seen it. I don't know what I was confusing it with, but I loved it. It had been a minute since I'd seen a giallo, and I had never seen it. I'd never heard of Fulci. I didn't know Italian horror or giallo was a thing until I met you and started watching these through you. But when I did, I went on a big kick and I watched a ton of them, like a crap ton. And in my opinion, this is one of the best. I think I would put it up there with like most of my favorite ones. Super cool, different, Like you said, they could be pretty formulaic, and this one switches a lot of those things up. And it's early on too.
Mhm.
It's not like there had been a ton of giallo or gialli that had come out that it had to kind of ape off of. But super cool, super stylish. I could have used a kill or two more, but I went into it. I think I had heard like, oh, it's so much more tame than most of the Fulci stuff. So I was actually surprised with the amount of gore and blood that we get. And what we do get, like when we do get it, it's fucking badass. Like it's insane. There's some of the best Fulci set pieces ever, specifically like the first dream kill. Like once that, it's a little slow starting, but once that hit, I was like, oh hell yeah. Like that scene blew me away. It turns into like a Godzilla movie for a second with that bird flying or whatever. It was insane. Like, I don't know. It just blew me. At that point, I was charmed by the movie and was completely there for it. And it did look, I will say, my buddy, thank you, Link. Oh, there he is. He's right there in the chat. Thank you. Because he hooked me up with a link because I am a little internet stupid. I was trying
is that why we call him Link?
Yeah.
That might be. He
I'm
knows
trying
that
to-
he has the missing links.
I'm on Pirate Bay trying to download a torrent. I'm like, I haven't done this since like the late 2000s. Like, do we still download torrents? Is that a thing? But anyway, I did get it, did watch it. I do agree with you that the end kind of, it's not that I dislike the reveal. I dislike how the reveal happens. Like if the killer was who the killer is, like that's cool. It does like go on a little too long and it drags a bit, but it's also super entertaining. Really good performances. Like you said, not a lot of great characters, but everybody was good. And it's not like, and the dub was great. The dub was really solid too. So I enjoyed it. One of the better giallo, I would say.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. All right, Joe. Well, you volunteered to join us last night when you heard me lamenting the fact that people weren't going to be able to find this movie, and I anticipated Jelani not being able to be here. So I'm assuming you have a history with this film, Joe. What do you think about it?
Yeah, no, this is like the third time I've seen it. This is great, actually. I watched it the other night with my friend Chase, who hadn't seen it. We've watched a lot of giallo together. We watched a lot of Fulci together. And yeah, this is it's really good. I think I might like this more than Don't Torture a Duckling. Not by like a lot, but I think this edges it out a little for me. The Psychic might still be like my favorite Fulci sort of giallo kind of film. I love The Psychic. I think that's fucking incredible and people don't talk about it enough. But no, this is really great. It doesn't hold back. Very sort of like interesting visuals throughout. It feels very like Lynchian before Lynch sort of stuff. I would be shocked if Lynch hadn't seen movies, if not this one, some movies like it as he was putting Eraserhead together, because you can tell like the slipping in and out of these like dreamlike states and all of that are something he really leaned into, like Brooks was alluding to before with comparing to Blue Velvet. But yeah, it's the interesting thing here too is it made me compare and contrast a little bit with Argento. I think part of what works for Argento, I feel, is usually able to pull off a bigger cast of characters that stand out or a little more unique. I think one of Fulci's faults is he isn't that good at pulling that off. A lot of his better films are pretty stripped down casts. And this is really no exception. It's a very tight cast. Everyone's good. The acting's good, but like you look at movies like, Suspiria, you look at Opera, you look at like some of his movies that like have a pretty sprawling cast. And Fulci, at least when it comes to giallos, can't really pull that off, it seems like from that. So like it's a tight cast, it's well acted, but yeah, it was making me think of some of those things as well. But no, I think this is one of his best outings in the genre.
Yeah, heck yeah. All right. Seems like we're all on board liking this film. So let's break it down. Let's talk about the style and structure. The movie oozes style. It's beautiful.
Skipping
It's beautiful.
characters.
Yeah, it's oh
Don't
wait,
you know
we skipped the characters. Yeah. All right. Well, let's break this down and let's talk about these characters. Brooks, what's a performance you want to highlight?
Well, I like I wouldn't say he's a villain, but he is kind of the villain. I call him the red herring because that's what he is. His name is Harry. He has red hair, and he's a red herring. I thought that was so funny. Like, oh wow, like a fun little.
So he was like a pop star or something. Like
Really?
him and the other hippie, they were like both like pop stars or something like that in bands and stuff. Like so they pulled him in and yeah, he's like the acid head, right? Who's like,
yeah,
I don't know, man, you're on acid.
yeah.
You'll do anything. I'm like,
Right.
I don't know about that, man.
Yeah. Their acid logic. It's like, come on.
Like when he comes in and he like fucking confesses the first time, like it's like
That's not him.
so
That's
weird.
That's another redheaded dude. You're talking about the
Yeah, he's
Irish
like-
guy?
Yeah. Well, honestly, it's a different guy.
That's a different guy. Yeah.
I thought they were the same guy.
Easy to do.
You think all gingers look the same?
Well, they both have the long hair. They both like, I don't know. I guess I am ginger blind.
I love how they're like, go out and question every redhead in the town. It's
Yeah.
like you can
Good thing we're
only
not
do that with
ugly.
redheads. You better not take any other group and question them all.
Yeah, but I love the dude that confesses to the murder, and it turns out to
Yeah.
be like completely bogus, right? But he's like, I got her guts. He's got a damn jar of guts in his pocket just for
He
the
has like
fuck
a
of it.
beaker, like a beaker filled with. Like what? When did you get that and how?
As one does.
Yeah, he was apprenticing for Tom Savini on the latest Dead movie, right? That's what was going on there. But the actual redhead you're talking about, the dude who like shows
Yeah.
up and he's like trying to kill her and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Well, you can pull both redheads if you want. I mean, they're fine. I mean, it's good.
Yeah, I think the first one's kind of more obscure anyway. Like
Yeah.
I only remembered him because I mistook him for another character later in the movie.
All right. Nice pick. What about you, Verno? What's a performance that stands out to you?
I'll leave Carol to one of you guys, even though she's phenomenal. The whole time I'm like, I know her from something, but yes, she's the actress from Don't Torture a Duckling. But she's phenomenal. But I'll go with Edmund, the uncle, right? The politician. I just love like
The
that.
dad. He's the dad, right?
Oh, is he a dad? I thought he was.
I think it's her father, right?
Oh, okay. She is just something about him. I love that brand of old British man from the 70s. That and just the way I think it's the same guy doing the dub. I think that actor is the one doing the dub. I'm pretty sure his voice fits that body so perfectly. But he has a good like red herringness to him too. Where at the same he's like so kind of likable, but at the same time like he's easy to suspect. Those were the two main red herrings to me. Were him and the husband were the ones that I was kind of like thinking were the red herrings of it. But every now and then when he'd be talking, he would just have like a sentence and he would really just mumble the whole thing together. And there was something about that was just really appealing to me. So I'll go with him. He was great.
He's good. I like that scene too when he's like leaving the house at the beginning and he's looking at the car and he like makes that fucking face and then you find out the car is actually one of the chicks that's one thing that's weird to me about this movie. So the main character, Carol, her husband is cheating on her, right? With this woman who is a part of their group. I don't know. She's like always there in the house. She's like, they're giving weird looks back. It's never really laid out who she is, how she has a connection to them or
right.
why she's there, like friend of the family or something like that. I don't know. It's very awkward and weird, but yeah, that I like it. And it's her car because you find that out later. I thought the car would have more to do with the reveal of the killer, but it didn't. It was the car itself was a red herring, I believe. Huh. Very interesting. What about you, Joe? What's the performance that sticks out to you?
You know, I'll go with what's her name? Anita Strindberg, the Julia, that character who is plays the neighbor who gets murdered. But because she was also in what was it? This Case of the Scorpion Tail or whatever that came out like
that's
the
it.
same
Scorpion
year.
Tail. Yeah.
But part of what sells this movie is the portrayal of that character. She you have to be convinced that she is really this like almost like she's almost like ethereal in a lot of ways in the scenes that we see her. She has to be seductive. She has to like really come off as this like temptress in order to make us really understand why any of this is happening. And she's able to pull that off mostly without dialogue. Like most of the scenes we see her interacting in, it's we don't get to know her too well as a person. It's all on the physicality of the character. And I think that was really important, and she did that. Well, I thought she did a really great job with that.
It's true for Carol too, the main character. Almost everything you said. She doesn't talk much, and you get it all without dialogue.
Go on a little bit more about Carol Verno, because she should have picked her, because I'm not going to pick her.
Oh, well, no, that's pretty much it. She just like you get so much from her just from the face. You see like that. It's weird because I did watch it like before we started rolling. I watched like the first 15-20 minutes again, and that's when it's kind of confusing. I would like to do another rewatch, knowing what we know about her, and I don't know. Can I spoil it and ask you guys a question? Like, do I have it right?
Spoilers.
Do I have it right that she is the killer? Right, I know that part, and it's not because she's crazy. She's pretty much she's Mickey, the freaky Tarantino film student. She wants to get caught, and she's not blaming it on the movies, but she's blaming it that she's insane. So I don't really
And she comes up with this dream, right, that she tells her psychiatrist, so that it points the finger to someone else in case they suspect her, right?
So
Which why wouldn't they? Because she leaves her coat, her knife, her scarf.
Weird. She kills him, and then to throw people off the set, she leaves all of her stuff there, and then tells everybody she had a dream that she killed this woman. So, but I mean,
she's basically setting up her husband, right?
Yeah. I feel like it's less that she wants to get caught, but more that I think she is totally into the idea of letting people know on like her terms. I don't think she wanted to be caught outside of her terms. I think that was the part where she was like, fuck. But like, I think she wanted to get away with it. And then when she was safe, reveal it. Like, I think she did want to reveal it at some point, but because she definitely, because she does that thing where she plays it like when I was watching it with Chase, he referred to the movie as being like an anti-twist, because like the movie does a great job at being like, of course it's fucking her, and then spends the next like hour and 10 minutes being like, it's not. I don't know why you think it's her, and like trying to, and does like a really like, it does a good job, I think, of presenting all these other possibilities, making you unsure about reality. I never didn't suspect her, but it does all of this work to make you go like, well, I mean, I guess a few different things could have happened, but like, and and then you get to the ending, and like, it's very hard to do a movie like this where the reveal with the most obvious person doesn't completely fall flat. And I think it does a great job with that. And I think part of that is Carol. I think the way she acts, having one of my favorite stretches in the movie is the bit where she hits the organ, the bat scene, the roof, like that whole extended sequence I think is phenomenal. I know some people say it drags a little too long. I'm like, no, this is like action. I'm good with the screaming and the running around for a little bit. Like that's good. I'd rather trim down, the investigator talking about whatever for a few minutes and keep all that. But
does anybody know what is cut? Like I think we were talking about before we got rolling. The version I think most of us saw is like an hour and 44. and there's an hour and 34 minute. I wonder, does anyone know what's not there?
I know it's a lot of the sexual stuff in the beginning got cut down. I know
lame.
that for certain. Yeah.
Yeah, we need that.
You don't, they were really, I don't know, man. They're all about sexy women in these movies, but when a woman goes down on another woman, they're like, whoa.
Yeah, for 1970,
we don't need women expecting oral.
Everything in this era was so coded when it came to that. You know what I mean? Like in the vampire movies I was just watching last month, like you got a lot of lesbian action in that, but it wasn't ever overt. It wasn't this.
Yeah. And that's why I cannot wait until Horror Fest this year when we talk about Dracula's daughter, probably with the first very blatant lesbian kind of seduction scene.
Oh yeah. I got one to pair
I've seen that on the big screen. It was great.
Of course you did.
Of course you did, Joe. All right, the performance I want to highlight is Stanley Baker, a Welsh actor who plays Inspector Corvin. I really like him in this movie. There is the trope of in all gialli of the detective, of the inspector, of the cops, right? They're just always completely inept. They have no clue what's going on. Usually one of them's eaten all the fucking time. I just rewatched the Case of the Bloody Iris like a couple weeks ago on DHS, and I, like the one cop there like collects fucking stamps, and like it seems like he's more impressed with like the stamps that he can pilfer from a crime scene than he is really studying the crime scene. This Inspector Corvin, played excellently by Stanley Baker, in my opinion, right? Actually feels like this is a dude who actually he solves the fucking murder. He's doing his due diligence. I like him. I love the whistle bit that he has. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the music because that's definitely a Morricone kind of signature thing that he does. So I really, really like him in the movie. I think he's a great character. And out of all the gialli that I've seen, he's one of the few cops that I was like, damn, he's kind of competent, right? Like he actually solves the case. He actually is paying attention to it. He seems like he's got like a burden to do this. And he's, God damn, does he smoke so much? In fact, the actor actually passed away in his late 40s from lung cancer because he was a very, very heavy smoker. As everybody was back in the 60s and the 70s, right? But let's go back and talk about the style and structure. I think the movie oozes style, like most gialli do. The gliding camera, the set design, the way to use the space. They're in like this, I don't remember what it is, but it burned down shortly after filming. But that big thing that looks like warehouse churchy, right? That church or whatever that she's in, with the organ, right? That all burned down. Luckily, the organ actually got moved out to be repaired before the building burned down, so the organ actually survives. But one of my favorite things about these movies is, I wasn't around in 1971. You know what I'm saying? Especially not in, I think this movie is set in Barcelona, if I remember, right? Because that's another thing about giallo is they all kind of are set in different locations internationally. They kind of use that space.
This one's London.
Is it London?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay.
You see like the bus at one point, that double-decker red bus dealio. You know what I mean?
Are you sure about that?
I'm positive.
Okay. For some reason, I thought it was Barcelona. Anyway, wherever it is, it's a really, really freaking cool setting. I love the style. I love the way it's shot. I think it's a really well-directed film. Structure-wise, I do think it runs a little bit too long, and maybe that extended ending explanation is a big part of it. All that exposition there. Because as I'm watching the movie, I'm not like feeling bored or nothing like that. And usually sometimes, you see these things are so formulaic. Oh, red herring, red herring, red herring. But I kind of get into it, right? Like the hippies and the daughter, right? Like the way that this is all kind of working around themselves. Like I really like that idea. And then the special effects, I don't know why this scene exists in this fucking movie, but that scene when she like runs into that room and all the dogs are fucking vivisected and up there and they're breathing and shit. By the way, Fulci almost went to jail over that shit. The special effects guy who went on to do E.T., right? He had to like go to court and bring the prop and be like, it's fake. It's not a real dog. In fact, they're actually coyotes in the movie because he couldn't find actual dog pelts to play around with. So we found coyote pelts or whatever. But yeah, Fulci almost got put in jail for this. It's like a cannibal Holocaust shit, right? Where everybody was like, he killed these fucking dogs,
Yeah.
right? But that's a great scene, and I think a lot of the effects are really, really cool, especially when she's having her like fever dream of all the dead bodies and the daughter's like all like gutted and shit. Like we'll see way more from Fulci in the future with gore special effects, right? But I do think the style and structure is pretty solid, though I do think it runs a little bit long, more so towards the end of the film. What about you, Brooks? What do you think about the style, structure, and special effects?
Well, like this is like, this is a basically kind of a whodunit movie. So like I had to watch it twice so I could like, get the experience of like, knowing the ending on the rewatch. I think I liked it much better on the rewatch, I think, because I understood what was going on a little better. Like, so like the first time I was a little confused. Like sometimes I'd be like, wait, what's going on? But the second I was like, oh, okay. Because like I kind of had to take stock of the characters. But yeah, it is like for a Fulci film, like it doesn't have as much gore. It does have some decent gore in it, like the stabbing, the chest stabbing, and the guts hanging out being probably two of the biggest gore moments in this movie. But it seems a little toned down from his usual. Like I would expect a little bit more, but it seems to be more about the characters and themes than Fulci's normal kind of horror kind of gore fest. So yeah, I think it's good, but I don't think it's like I agree it's not one of Fulci's best, but I think it's up there pretty high.
Yeah, what like Fulci dives specifically into horror, starting with Zombie. Wouldn't y'all say like Zombie and then into the Gates of Hell trilogy? But he still plays around with giallo because he does like New York Ripper, for instance. It's still part of it, and New York Ripper is definitely an '80s giallo, right? Where it's like kind of a little bit more rock and roll, So
feels almost more like a slasher than a giallo, even though that's close to each other.
Absolutely. They're very, very close, right? I mean, giallo definitely influenced slashers, just like some of the French films like Diabolique and shit like that, right? We always like to give credit to Halloween and Black Christmas and hell, even Psycho, but there's some things that led to it before that even, right? And other countries as well. What about you, Verna? What do you think about the style and structure?
I think it's fire, dude. Structurally, the thing that stands out to me that I like about it, we've said before, like most of the giallo movie, it's always, and like you get it with like De Palma films, like Blowout is like this, where you'll have a person, they'll witness a crime, and then for whatever reason, they become obsessed with solving the crime, and they're out there, they're tracking it down, just a random person, not a cop, and it's cool, it works and everything, but it's always a little bit silly. This is different, where you have the main character is kind of the main subject and the main red herring. And that in itself is just unique and super cool in the way they kind of like, you don't really know what's going on for the first chunk of the movie. You kind of have to follow along and figure out and put the pieces together. So structurally, it's fire. The style though, or not fire, but the style is the fire. You mentioned the coyote scene. That I was already blown away by the first kill scene, which is cool to think of that like as a kill scene. Like, you go to a Friday the 13th movie, you get a hatchet to the face. What Fulci gives you in the kill scene is just crazy elaborate. There's different like sets in different places. Like when they're showing the people at the table and they're like got the painted in gray and they're all wearing the suits. You know what I'm talking about? I'm having a hard time explaining it, but it's all dreamlike and fucking crazy. Yeah. That just blew me away because it comes out of nowhere. And it's just like, I don't know, the movie doesn't set you up for what is about to happen there. And it's just such fucking cool set pieces. You mentioned the church. I love that set. I love when they're up on the roof afterwards. It just looks so cool. All the sets everywhere they go in London is fucking awesome. Another one.
It is in London. Two Gun Pedro clarified that. I don't know why I thought it was in Barcelona.
I didn't notice until after I read it, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember the buses. Or after I was reading Wikipedia on it. But when they're throwing those knives, when they're acting like they're just dipping the knives in paint and throwing it at the board, it's just something so weird. But also,
you can see the goddamn line, right? You can see the the wire, right?
Yeah, out afterwards. Something really cool about that. And I always think of this. I remember I mentioned this to you recently. But when I first was asking you, like, what is about this Italian horror? I was asking about Dario Argento. What is it about him that's so cool? And you had said they keep the beauty next to the the ugliness. You see the violence and it stays beautiful. I
The
would say that
combination of the sacred and the profane.
the sacred and the profane. It's got that in spades. And I think literally, I know I've brought it up like 3 times, but that kill scene, that dream sequence is like the epitome of that. And it's that and like maybe the first kill in Suspiria goes farther on the gore side of it. But like it's the most beautiful kill that I've maybe ever seen is the first kill in this one. And that's worth the price of admission alone. It's worth watching just for that.
Hell yeah. And for some reason, they don't want us to watch it. So go get the Blu-ray, find the DVDs, make your voice heard, man. Screw streaming services. Unless it's Netflix and it's time for Raw. And then we can whatever. Streaming's fine, but like physical media is better. What about you, Joe? What do you think about the style and structure of the film?
No, again, the style is just pitch perfect. And the structure, I do think like it does drag a little towards the end. It'd be nice if it was like a little tighter, but like it does such a great job that like first sequence where you're kind of just like, it almost doesn't matter what else fucking happens in this movie. Like that was great.
Right.
True. So it gets a lot for that. But since you brought it up, Verno, you brought up Blowout. Have you ever seen Blow Up?
No, I've heard of it though. With the guy from Deep Red, is the star in it?
Well, yeah, it's because it's Michelangelo Antonioni or Antonioni.
It's like Blow Up, but with audio rather than video, right? It's like
it's audio. Well, I mean, it's like De Palma and what is it? Scorsese, De Palma and God, why am I blanking on
Coppola?
Coppola,
Okay.
yeah. I'm like, yeah, what's going on? They both ripped off that fucking movie because The Conversation and Blowout both very blatantly rip off that movie. They were both really inspired by it because it's about a guy, like a photographer for a magazine, and he goes and he's taking pictures and he's developing them, and there's like he sees what looks like a guy like that's just dead in a park. When he was taking his pictures, he's like, "Oh fuck!" And he has to go back down to the park and see what and all like. You gotta see that.
The Conversation is the one where they do it with the audio, right? I was mixing that up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Which I love. The Conversation. It's one of my favorite movies. But like Blow Up, you gotta see Blow Up. Another cool. Italian director. It was his debut English film too. Everything else he did before that was in Italian.
I've never seen any of those 3 movies.
It's the lead guy from Deep Red is the one that's in Blow Up. You got to see Blowout.
The piano player, right? Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, all 3 of those movies are fucking fantastic. They're all excellent.
I almost rented a Blowout a few weeks ago, and instead I fucking wound up watching The Assignment by Walter Hill. And Joe knows what I'm talking about. So
yeah, but Blowout has such a good ending. Like the ending of that, like that's one of those things. If you don't know the ending, don't look it up. Just watch it, and it's just one of those endings where you're just like, oh, like so good,
Hell yeah.
Whereas this movie ending's not so crazy, but it's a little subdued. But like clearly that was the point, right? And I wonder how much of this is Fulci sort of subversive, sort of, I guess, doing some subversion, because it's like it starts with fucking crazy chaos and all that, and then it ends very calm, which is kind of like the inverse of what you expect in a lot of movies like this. So
hell yeah. To address what Introspect said, he says it seemed like a lot of people were dubbed in, or maybe that was just a tracking mismatch. Nope, that's just Italian cinema. You can view Italian cinema kind of like Hong Kong cinema. In Italian movies, they didn't record sound on the set. And in fact, they would, like Argento, Fulci, a lot of these gialli, like this is how they were filmed. They would have French actors and German actors and American actors and English actors and Italian actors. They would all be delivering their lines in their native language because they knew that this was going to be shipped out to so many different countries. Why bother having audio on set when we're going to have to dub it anyway to make it like, we're not just going to have this movie in Italy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like an international picture. So that's just a part of it, right? It's kind of like Hong Kong cinema. This is a big piece of Italian cinema.
Right.
And,
That's why, like, even the dad, the British guy, he's doing his own dub. He said it on the day, and then he has to go say it again because they just don't record. I think they do record audio, but just through the cameras or whatever, not like the professional audio there.
And to speak on the dub, you mentioned this earlier, but this is a very well dubbed movie.
Yeah.
And dubbing is not an easy thing to do. I mean, we've seen plenty of these, right? I mean, Demons. Bro, that's a terribly dubbed movie. You know what I'm saying?
It's part of the charm, though. It's such a big part of the charm.
It's part of the charm. But so when you see a movie like this, where you're like, I'm like, even me, I'm like, this is almost too good of a job dubbing. Like, this seems very weird, man. So yeah, that's what's going on there. But now let's talk about Verno. What is it? Music now? Is that what we're doing next?
We're on music.
Let's talk about the music. Ennio Morricone, who most people will know from his Western work, Italian as well. Where his work with Sergio Leone and, for instance, Once Upon a Time in the West has the harmonica, right? Diegetic music. That's a big thing in Italian cinema. Argento does it. Fulci does it. I saw this in the comments earlier. I couldn't tell if the whistling was part of the sound design or if it was part of the movie or actually happening. And that's one of the genius things, right? Because the inspector like whistles, but it's part of the theme. That's a Morricone type thing. But I'll be honest with you, watching it this time, I'm listening to it and I can pick out his work, right? But at the same time, I'm like I'm almost glad Jelani's not here, because then Jelani would go on about jazz and how much he hates the sporadic nature of jazz. But I love it because the movie itself is kind of chaotic and the music fits that, right? Now, I do wish it does have a theme, but I wish it had like a better theme that was a little bit more memorable. But aside from that, it's Morricone just having fun, just playing around with like jazz and loose form, prog rock, all this kind of weird stuff, right? We're spoiled by movies like Profondo Rosso and Tenebrae with the Goblin scores, right? We're spoiled by that, right? That is not the norm in these movies. This is more of the norm, but it's a little bit different because it kind of goes a little bit more in an offbeat, off-kilter type way. And so I really do like the music in here, but it's not as good to me as like Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West, or even The Thing, right? Which was very stripped down by John Carpenter. But those scores excel over it because they have memorable themes. Like there is no womp, womp, womp in this movie, right? But it's still doing exactly what it needs to do in the genre that it's working with. What do you think about the music, Brooks?
Well, I really liked the soundtrack.
And I know that this is one of your favorite film composers, right?
Yeah, he's done a lot of good scores for movies, like mostly the westerns, of course. Spaghetti westerns, Once Upon a Time in the West. But he's done other soundtracks too that I'm enjoying. This is one of them too. Like I really like it has that kind of experimental vibe to it. Like he's kind of reaching into different kind of genres for this one. Like it's got a lot of that funky kind of 70s, like like boom, 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 that bass
porno music.
Yeah, a lot of that in there. But it also has like a lot of that high tension building music. So yeah, like just a really this is a soundtrack I could imagine like listening to separate of the movie and enjoying, just like just working or doing whatever.
Hell yeah! What about you, Verno? What are you thinking?
I thought it was really good. I love what you said because it's not something I had really thought, but it's like that lack of a really memorable theme. I didn't know that it was Marconi, if I'm saying his name right, until afterwards, and that's surprising. Like you were spot on when you said we're spoiled by the Argento stuff, but we're also spoiled by the Dollar trilogy and the Good, the Bad, the Ugly, because that stuff is like on another level. This is him kind of experimenting, like you're saying, and doing something different. And I think the idea that there's this hippie jam band in the movie is playing a big role. It's got that psychedelic, that touch of jazz to it, that like creeping bass line, and it's got all the like, because it's her madness going on. The music is playing that too, where it's all this disorienting, which jazz does really well too, with the funky drum breaks in that. So I thought it was really good, but not. I was honestly a little bit surprised that it was Marconi, because it didn't like blow me away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was solid.
Yeah, you used a word that none of us have used tonight at all, and it's a very appropriate term to describe much of this film: psychedelic.
Bruh.
Right? It
Totally.
is visually and audibly a psychedelic kind of film made by older Italian dudes who don't quite get it.
Yeah, I wonder. I always wondered, like, I tried to Google, like, has Fulci ever mentioned psychedelic drugs? Did Argento ever drop acid? I want to know. I really do.
If Argento dropped acid, I would be very scared of what that trip would have been like for him, man. Oh, these women are hating me. They want to come after me. They're evil. What about you, Joe? What are you thinking about the music?
No, I have too much to add. I mean, it's good. It's not as good as some of these other classics. It's not his best score, but it's really good. One of the bits that works the best for me is, again, going back to the scene with the bats and the slamming on the door, like going into like the sound design of it all, just the overwhelming stress of the bats shrieking, the door,
with
the
editing
too. Yeah, and the editing, the woo woo, like
right.
all of that, like together, it's so good, and for that to be stressful, and then the music on the roof, right, basically right after that, it's still thrilling and terrifying, but it's completely different than what he was just doing like seconds beforehand. Like it's manipulating sound in a different way, and I thought that in particular was really masterful in this one.
That's cool, dude. I want to ask you guys, like, I think it's Suspiria. In Suspiria, there's the scene where the friend Sarah, she's getting chased. I think it's Suspiria, and the guy has the razor blade, and he's reaching through the lock, and he's trying to lift the lock up.
Yeah, we're trying to get out the window.
She's over the corner. Yeah, she's stacking things up to climb out the window, and it's like, Argento definitely took that from here. I feel like, you know what I'm talking about, Robbie? Did you catch that?
What?
That's the scene in Suspiria where the friend Sarah is stacking stuff up and then climbing out a window.
Yeah, she puts the tiniest fucking one at the bottom, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of buildings have these weird doors that are just up on a weird platform that you have to stack shit up to get to?
Very
Is this
similar.
like an Italy thing? Like they just have weird doors in random places on buildings?
It must be. Well, this movie's got some themes. Let's unpack it. Brooks, what were you pulling from this movie? What did it speak to you?
Well, I think this movie is a lot like one of the biggest themes is like this, the change in culture from generation to generation. You know, like the hippie culture, like the neighbor, the lady who gets killed. She's like, she's part of the kind of this new counterculture, and then you have like the older characters and even the main character who are more like, they're more of the previous generation, a more reserved culture, and like they look down on them, they don't understand it, but at the same time, like, they have that inside them too, like they have the same kind of desires as these people. They just learn to kind of repress themselves, but the way they look down on them is it's almost hypocritical, it's like, because when it comes down to it, like, they're just as like, perverted or weird as these people. Because like, I think that's why the whole reason for the murder is because like, she didn't want it to get out that, she was with a woman,
Yeah,
like,
she threatened it as blackmail, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she would be like, she would be forced to like she wouldn't be able to live her life the way she was used to, she couldn't like retain this facade if it was broken. And that was kind of the whole driving factor behind the murder, was just her wanting to like, keep that buried. Like she still wanted to do it, of course, like, but, she was more concerned about her standing and, how like, she's perceived by her peers. Like, she's part of a different culture. She didn't want to be a part of this counterculture. Like whereas like the stepdaughter, I think, did. That's why she was like, it seemed like she was becoming more curious about it and was starting to engage with it more. Whereas the main character was very much trying to run away from it, and that's kind of what set the whole thing off.
Kind of makes you think of the Jeffrey Epstein shit, doesn't it? Just a little bit, right?
Bit, yeah.
You know, people in power are
Yeah.
freaks too, but when they don't
Yeah.
want it to be outed, you know,
Yeah.
because they are super freaks, and I don't even mean that in a good way. You know what I'm saying?
And not Rick
Speaking of-
James style super
She's
freaks.
super
Yeah, not a Rick
freaky.
James super freak. That's a little bit different. What about you, Verno? What's
Oh,
this movie
come on.
speaking to you?
Speaking of Rick James super freaks, it was all set up for you to say that. I was waiting for my.
It was, but then I
segue.
felt bad. I was like, I don't want to connect you to Jeffrey Epstein. So
Hey, I've been connected my whole life. You can't get away from it, man. It's like a bad rash. Dude, you guys are so much better at this than me. We got you guys here, so thank God for that. I would say a lot of what you said was fantastic, Brooks. With her not kind of accepting who she was, that was part of it. And I was thinking of it as like just like what we see so often, like a shadow thing, not accepting your shadow self, and that was part of it with like this duality of these two different women kind of being different sides of the same coin, and her like struggling with that side of herself, and that's why she had to kill her. But or her just repressed urge. Well, I guess they weren't overly repressed because she was letting them out with her neighbor and everything. But there's a touch of that too, I'm sure.
yeah,
And if I can say memory and reality and like how we look, because that's another thing like Argento is constantly fucking with. Is like, oh, now that I look at it this way, my memory is, you know what I mean? And just like our perspective based on like how our reality can be manipulated. You know what I mean? Just the way the viewer's reality is being manipulated by the red herrings and the clues is kind of the same thing that's happening.
or she's manipulating her psychologist, right?
Yeah.
He's sitting there like, well, this means this and this. Motherfucker, she's playing you. She wants you to record this shit, right? So that like, she can like pin it on something else. Verno, don't sell yourself short, man. You just killed three themes back to back, man. Is what you just did.
Once I started talking, I'm like, maybe I do know what I'm talking about.
You've been doing this for a while. What about you, Joe? What you sitting on, man? What's this movie about to you?
Yeah, I mean, to just add to that a little bit and flesh out some more, there's this overarching sort of like class struggle, right? And there's a lot of the upper class or the lower class, because the upper class can bend when they're bending reality, it's like to their benefit. The lower class, we see them bending reality through using acid and things like that. The idea of her being outed as being in a lesbian relationship, it's the lower class trying to drag the upper class down to their level. And it's sort of this like way of being like, you're no better than us, and her trying to stay higher up, and her father killing himself for her was showing the lengths that the upper class and the elites will go to keep themselves from the indignity of being dragged down to the lower classes. So I think there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah, this is one of those instances where it's hard for me to add to what y'all have said, because I agree with everything that everybody said. It's about sexual repression, but at the same time, it's not about the sexual repression that she was feeling like in herself. Like you said, Verno, she did it. She went there. She had a great time with her neighbor, right? I mean, who wouldn't? You know what I'm saying? But I mean, those seem like some wild ass parties, man. Who doesn't want that invite? You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it's like the repression of like her ability to accept that that's who she is and be open and be out. And we're dealing with a time where that wasn't common, right? Like, I know that we still have a long way to go, but more of us are now accepted for our sexuality than the history of the 20th century, or even, before, the American history and shit like that, like recent history, right? So we've made a lot of strides, but at the same time, if you don't allow yourself to fulfill your desires and your needs and be who you are, it leads to these kind of things. And I love, Joe, what you were saying, because this is the other side of it, is the class stuff that's in the movie, right? the upper class, the lower class, right? The lower class, what's the difference? There is no difference. I mean, obviously, wealth is a big difference, right? Like, style of living, cost of living, stuff like that. But what's the difference inside between Carol and the hippies? Nothing. The thing is, they admit who they are, and she can't, right? Because she doesn't want to be dragged down to that level. But I also love that, Joe. You mentioned that that's a big problem. The lower class, the upper class. There is a disparity there. We're still feeling it today. It's still going on today, right?
Yep.
Classism is like a big fucking deal, and it's never been solved. It's always there. But like, it is crazy because like the upper class disdains the lower class, right? The scene when the father comes down and he hears the music and he makes that fucking face and he sees the car and makes the face. They realize that's the chick in his daughter's flat hanging out, right?
Yep.
Who's cheating on his son-in-law with his son-in-law on his daughter, right? But it just goes to show you like the hypocritical nature of the upper class, but at the same time, the lower class, just be yourself, be open, be cool, but they do want to pull people down. And it also shows her obsession with proving that these elites, right, whether they're political elites, whether they're celebrity elites or whatever, to prove that they're just like us. But at the same time, we destroy them. It's such a weird fucking thing, right? How freedom of sexual expression gets fucked around with in terms of class, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's say anybody here on this panel decides, hey man, I want to go and pay somebody to have sex with me. Everybody here would be like, that sounds fine. We're all sex positive, man. We support sex work, blah, blah, blah. But if any of us were like congressmen or something, like that's a big deal. But who always gets caught in this shit, right? Those who are trying to act like they're above the rest of us, right? We're all the same. We all have the same base desires. We all are super freaks, and we need to let our freak flag fly. Otherwise, we're going to kill our neighbor and try to pin it on our fucking cheating ass husband. So I don't know.
It's going to be beautiful.
I think it's about classism, but also sexual repression, but how that like kind of ties in together. I think I think it's way more profound than people realize.
More profound than most Fulci, wouldn't you agree? Like Zombie, there's no theme in Zombie. You know what I mean? Like most of his stuff aren't as theme heavy as this one might be.
Well, Zombie has the theme of like coming in and like it's like the white savior thing. We're going into this like Haitian town and like I'm the doctor and I'm gonna, but it goes beyond him and shit like that. So I mean,
that's a good point.
Fulci's kind of a smart dude. I mean, most of these Italian filmmakers, even as gnarly or as sensational or as sleazy as their movies can be, there is a point. I would say there's a point to New York Ripper. You know what I'm saying? Toe fucking and all. So
I'm sure.
Yeah,
it's quackers, but yeah. And I mean, really though, if you don't think you're paying for sex, guess what? You're paying for sex. That's
whether it's financially, emotionally, mentally, in some form or fashion.
Oh, you're gonna pay for it eventually. That's
too fucking true. All right, let's get in and rate this bitch, as Verna would say. You out there in the chat, if you got a chance to watch this film, what do you rate A Lizard in a Woman's Skin? Brooks, kick us off. Out of 5 you digs, what do you give it?
I'd give this one a 4. I think like it is very I really like it. It's very good, but it feels like it drags a little bit. Like it does kind of, I feel like meander a little bit, but still like visually it's like a great movie. Like it's kind of artsy, but in a gritty way. You know, it's like most giallo movies. But I think this is one, like especially if you're a Fulci fan, like this is one you should definitely check out. So yeah, Fantastic Four.
Hell yeah! If you can find it, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
What about you, Verno?
If it's ever available in the future.
Yeah. What about you, Verno? What are you thinking?
I was gonna say real quick, just because I wanted to mention it earlier at the top. We said that this was one of his earliest giallo. I did not know he did a giallo or jali
He
in
did one right before, right? Yeah.
1969. He did one called One on
Yep.
Top of the Other that I've never heard anybody mention ever.
One on top of the other, bounce.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about. Brown chicken, brown cow. Yeah, I don't know. So
Yeah.
yeah, if anybody out there has seen that, let us know how that is. But I would say I'm gonna give it a 4. I think it's maybe closer to a 3.5, but comparing it to other Jolly, I think it bumps it up. When you're comparing it to its peers, it's better than most, and it's definitely a really, really good one. So a 4 from me.
All right, 4 from Brooks and Verno. What about you, Joe? What you sitting on?
You know what? I came into this wanting to give it a 4, and I'm sticking to it. It's really good. It's one of the it's probably top 25%, 30% giallo, I think, or jolly. Like it's up there for me. It's one of Fulci's best. Again, I think the site, like, I love the psychic, but yeah, I think this edges out Don't Torture a Duckling. It edges out a couple of others. It's definitely, I feel like it's certainly better than some Argento movies. I think we can all agree on that. Like,
I would compare it with Bird with a Crystal Plumage. I really would. Like, I think that one does some better things, but that one's like a half hour longer. You know what I mean? Like, there's something about this. I don't know. This one's they're comparable, and that's a great one.
no,
Don't get me wrong. That's a great one.
Yeah, no, for sure. I love the Bird with Crystal Plumage, but yeah, like, no, I think a 4 is really good for this. But at some point, I gotta get you guys to watch The Red Queen Kills 7 Times. It's so fucking good, and no one talks about that one. And the director of that also did The Night Evelyn like came out of the grave, or something like that. Like, it's another really good jolly, and no one talks about either of those movies, and they're fucking great.
The Psychics on Tubi that you mentioned earlier, the Fulci one.
Yeah,
so check
it's
that
like
out.
every Fulci
really
movie's available except for this fucking one, and apparently
Red-
one on top of another.
the Red Queen Kills 7 Times on Tubi as well. 1972.
By the way,
so
Joe,
good.
you get a Cruise Choice every year. You're the one that wastes it on French animated films. I'm just saying. Like,
This one is a 3-hour French epic. That's different.
all right, I'm going to agree with y'all. 4 is what I was planning on giving this movie, and I'm going to stick with that as well. I don't think it's the best Fulci film. I am more of a fan of Zombie. The Beyond in particular is probably my favorite Fulci film. But I do like this film, and I do respect it for what it is. And for those 70s era Jolly, I think it stands out. I think it stands out like some of Argento's best, like Bird with Crystal Plumage and Deep Red. I don't think it's quite on that level, but I think it's as high to that level as Fulci Jolly gets that I've seen. Right. So I really like it.
It's probably better than Four Flies on Gray Velvet. Put it on that territory.
It is better than that one,
yeah.
I would say. But I still like Four Flies, man.
Me too.
That's just me. Cat of Nine Tails is kind of weaker too.
Yeah, I would put this like a little bit above Cat of Nine Tails, which I enjoy too.
I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah. But there's still a lot of Jolly that I got to get into, like the was it Sergio Martino stuff? Like Two Gun sent me a bunch of his stuff, so I gotta dive in.
Nice.
Because to me, like, as much as I love giallo and as much as I say I love Italian cinema, it's really just Lamberto and Mario Bava, Dario Argento and Lucio Fulci, and then I go, no, it's not just the horror stuff I like. I like Fellini. I've seen 8.5 and La Dolce Vita. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like, I could dive in a little bit more, and we will. So that's a 4 across the board for a PCP average of 4. So introspect, you're right. 4 you digs. Hell yeah.
You know, the first woman to get a Best Director nomination was an Italian director.
Who was that? For what movie?
It was, it was Lena Wertmuller. And it wasn't for Swept Away, but Swept Away is really good. I've seen that one on the big screen. But Yeah, it was for, was it Love and Anarchy? I'm trying to think. She's done a few really good. It might have been Seven Beauties.
Okay. I'm not familiar with her work, man.
She's really good. Swept Away is an incredible movie. What was it? Yeah, it was Seven Beauties. Go me. But yeah. But Swept Away, I saw like a restoration screening of it like a month or so ago, and it is just like a wild movie. If you've never seen the original Swept Away, not like the fucking Madonna remake from like 20 years ago or whatever.
I've never even seen that one. So all right, you got me on that, man.
Yeah.
The only Madonna movie I've seen is Dick Tracy and Truth or Dare. And it's hard to pick which one I like the most.
You never seen A League of Our Own?
Dick Tracy is great.
I've seen League of Our Own. I'm just joking, damn it. I was trying to make it simple. I've also seen something she did on Cinemax back in the day, and that was pretty fucking dope too. You know what I'm saying? All right.
I saw that American Pie. What was that one movie she did with like Rupert Everett, and she did like a cover of American Pie. That was like, remember that movie? That was terrible.
I do. What the fuck is that movie? The Next Best Thing.
Yeah.
That movie.
Yeah,
sucks.
I saw that in theaters with a friend of mine who has since come out as trans, and no one, said I was gay at the time. It was weird. People were very polite back then.
What the fuck happened to Rupert Everett? What happened to him? Yeah, I'm just curious, man. He's a pretty good-looking dude. I'm just gonna say.
Yeah, no, it was cool. Wasn't he Claw in the Inspector Gadget movie?
Oh, I think he was.
With Matthew Broderick.
Yeah,
I also saw that in theaters with the same friend.
Double feature with the one from earlier.
Chill Out Man knows exactly. Chill Out Man knows exactly the Madonna's fucking movie I'm talking about, man. Like, what's the name of that movie? We got to find out. Like, I need that movie back in my
I'm
life.
over here Googling Evita. I'm like, am I wrong? Is she not in Evita? How has no one mentioned Evita?
No,
She's definitely in it.
That movie's a little too
Her
much.
and the guy from Brazil. It's great.
All right, thus concludes our launch into March Madness here on PCP. We continue our efforts into March Madness next week with David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers. Yeah, this is available on Amazon Prime. I think this is going to be easier for most people to find. This is a really cool movie starring Jeremy Irons playing dual roles as twin gynecologists gone mad. And it's a really great movie that I watched for the first time about a year ago. A friend of mine, she had recommended it to me. And then there's been a recent Amazon TV show where they redid Dead Ringers. They gender swapped it. And what's her name? What's her name from The Mummy? Rachel Weisz? Rachel Weisz? Is that her? Is it Rachel? Like the chick from The Mummy. Yeah, Rachel Weisz, I think. Like she plays the roles. That's a really good show from a different perspective. But definitely check out Dead Ringers next week here on PCP Movie Night, because March Madness is just getting started. Jacob's Ladder premiered last night on Dylan's Horror Show. Tomorrow night on Fable's channel, One Collection Down, they'll be talking about Flatliners. And then on Thursday night, I'll be joining Verno and the crew over at Blood Splatter Chatter to talk about The House by the Cemetery, another Fulci film. And then Sunday night, Dylan's Horror Show, they're going to be talking about Bliss. Not familiar with this movie at all, but the following Monday, next week, Dead Ringers. Y'all watch this movie. Really cool stuff. Brooks, thank you so much for being here. Final thoughts. What you got coming up?
Oh, yeah, of course, me and Delaney do Go Figure reviews. Delaney, who could not.
I'm sorry. That's it. It's Body of Evidence. God damn it. That's the fucking movie. All right. I'm writing that down.
Sexy Madonna movie?
That's one of the sexy Madonna movies. Yeah. Body of Evidence.
But yeah, me and Delaney do Go Figure reviews, and we did a new Optimus Prime, and we also did the new Motu Stranger Things crossover 2-pack with He-Man and Vecna in it. So check that out. And for my final thoughts, I guess, like, I meant to shout out the science the forensic scientist guy in this movie because I like the way he says marijuana.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The giggling one, the jokester guy, Lowell, I think his name was. Yeah.
He's a clever boy.
Oh, there you go. I finally got the thumbnails ready for you, Brooks. There you go. We got there's the yeah. How clever you put the thumbnail upside down.
Yeah, it's upside down because they're
and then apparently the medieval spawn Kickstarter. That's what Jelani sent me. So.
Oh wow, I haven't seen that one yet. I need to take a look at that fella.
Fucking Jelani's man leaving you behind, man, in the dust, man. Go fuck himself.
We're breaking up.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, dude. Why not, man? Right? All right, Verno, thank you so much for being here. Final thoughts? What you got coming up, my man?
Thank you for having my friend. As you alluded to, House by the Cemetery. The Fulci fun continues on Blood Splatter Chatter Thursday at 8. So pretty much we're doing a very similar thing to what we do here. Every Thursday, 8 o'clock, it's me, it's Missing Link, and it's Big Stu Pak talking horror movies. And then this Sunday, it's going to be Link and I doing 2 brand new movies. I haven't seen either of them yet, but I've heard nothing but good things about Hard Eyes, which is still in theaters, and Companion, which just hit video on demand. Both of them, I'm hearing nothing but good stuff about, which I already said, but I can say it again if you want me to.
Say it again.
I hear good shit about both of them, man.
All right. Yeah, nice. Joe, thank you for being here and coming in clutch, man. What you got coming up? Final thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm still editing Green Hornet Miss Fury, so check that out. There's 2 issues out so far. There's gonna be 5. It's a good time, I think. And then I'm going to be at Emerald City. Anyone here is going to be at Emerald City. I'll probably be bumming around the Mad Cave booth a bunch, but I'll also just be wandering around and enjoying Seattle. So, come by, hang out. I have a panel. It's like 3:45 on Thursday talking about YA books because the sequel to King Arthur and the Knights of Justice is out in June. If you haven't gotten the first volume, why wait? Get it now. Get caught up. Volume 2, June 17th.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Joe. We really appreciate it. March Madness, y'all. Take a look at that list. Lots of great movies. I'll be on a lot of these shows, but even if I'm not there, go check it out, including tomorrow night on One Collection Down for Flatliners. Thursday night, The House by the Cemetery on Blood Splatter Chatter. I will be there. Bliss on Dylan's Horror Show. And the next week, Dead Ringers, y'all. Go watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. Jeremy Irons, David Cronenberg, and truly a movie about madness. All right, y'all. We're dipping out. Thank you all so much for being here. We appreciate you. Station, pop, pop, boom. You can't see me. Suck it, ass.